Welcome in to Texans Today, everybody. I am your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, 4 blockbuster trades the Texans could do this season and why. Let me know in the comment section. Are you old enough to remember Blockbuster? Do you remember renting out video games and movies over at Blockbuster, checking out the candy section? Let me know if you're old enough to know what Blockbuster even is. And speaking of blockbuster trades and the Houston Texans, I want the Texans to be all in this season. I want them to make every move possible to help this team get to a Super Bowl. If you agree with that, go down and like the damn video. Hit that thumbs up icon. If you want Nick Caserio, if you want DeMeco Ryans to have this team go all in, put all their chips into the middle of the table, go down and like today's video as we get into some blockbuster trade targets. The first one I've mentioned here on the channel before, and his name is Jonathan Allen of the Washington Commanders. I think the Texans defensive line has a little bit of a weakness on the interior, and if you add a guy like Jonathan Allen with his skill set, I think this Texans defensive line becomes lethal. As we see over the last 4 seasons, he has been an absolute menace on the interior for Washington. I mean, over 10 tackles for loss in each of the last 3 seasons, 9 sacks in 2021, 7.5 in 2022. 2023, he had 5.5 sacks, and he could be looking for his way out of Washington. I know he wants a new contract. The Commanders, they re-signed Deron Payne recently to a really big extension. They also drafted a guy in Jerzon Newton in the 2024 NFL draft. So adding defensive linemen, signing other guys, he could be like, you know what, I want to get mine elsewhere. And I also saw this roll across my feed just the other day, a Bleacher Report trade idea where they had the Colts trading for Jonathan Allen, which, besides the point, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's probably the Colts' biggest area of strength is their interior defensive line. So adding Jonathan Allen doesn't make any sense. But what did kind of catch my eye was the trade package that they put together. They said the Colts could get Jonathan Allen for a 2nd-round pick in 2025 and a 4th-round pick in 2026. If that's all it costs, count me in. I'm down because, like I said, you add him to this defensive front. Maybe you replace Foley Fatukasi, or you have, some sort of rotation of Foley Fatukasi and DeMeco Autry. You add Jonathan Allen to this defensive line. Opposing quarterbacks beware. I'm telling you that right now. Adding a player like Allen, the Texans defensive line would be the best in the entire NFL. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm telling you, Jonathan Allen, along with, Will Anderson Jr., along with a guy like Danielle Hunter, easily the best pass rush in the entire NFL, bar none. But I have a question for you folks at home. What do you think the bigger need is for the Houston Texans on defense? Do you think it's defensive tackle, or do you think it's safety? Both of those positions have been, positions of need that have been thrown out to me by you, the viewers of Texans Today. You said, Texans need defensive tackle. The Texans need a safety. Well, I have another one of these positions coming up in just a moment, but I want to hear from you folks at home. You're about to get hit with the YouTube ad break right here. If it happens right now, no problem. Just let it roll and go down and answer today's pinned question. It's close for me. I think they're both up there in like the bigger needs for the Texans roster right now. But I would probably lean towards safety a little bit more because I really do like DeMeco Autry. I think Foley Fatukasi is a little bit underrated. I just don't think there's really any depth on this Texans defensive line, especially on the interior. But with that being said, my next trade candidate isn't going to be a safety because if the Texans wanted to add a safety, if they feel the need to, why not just go out in free agency and sign any of these 3 guys in Justin Simmons, Quandre Diggs, or Eddie Jackson? If you want a safety, I really don't think you need to trade for one. That's why the next name on my list is another defensive tackle in Cameron Heyward, because that's the only way I believe you're going to be able to upgrade at that position at any point this season is if you go out and trade for a guy like a Jonathan Allen or a Cameron Heyward of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had a down year last year, only played in 11 games for this team at 33 tackles, 2 sacks. But in the past, he has been dominant. 2 straight seasons of 10-plus sacks at the interior defensive line spot is elite play from a guy in Cameron Heyward. He has been a stalwart on that Steelers defensive line, and I think adding him, similar to Jonathan Allen, everything that I said about Jonathan Allen and this Texas defensive line would be the best in the NFL, just go ahead, click copy, click paste, Command C, Command V. If you know, go down and hit that copy and paste. If you want to know what my thoughts are on Cameron Heyward adding to this Texans defensive line. But a guy like Cameron Heyward, I don't see him being really traded at any point this offseason. I think if the Steelers end up trading Cameron Heyward, it's going to be around the trade deadline, and probably if their season isn't looking too bright. Maybe Russell Wilson isn't the answer there. Justin Fields isn't playing well either, and the Steelers team is a little bit of in seller mode. I know Cameron Heyward wants a contract extension. I know he wants a couple more years of guaranteed money, and he is getting up there in age. So maybe the Steelers don't want to deal with that, but I don't see it happening in training camp or the preseason. This, probably the Jonathan Allen trade as well. I see that being like a mid-season acquisition by the Texans. This next name, another defensive guy, Marshon Lattimore, cornerback from the New Orleans Saints. We've obviously talked about him a lot here on the channel and the possibility of the Texans maybe trading with the team from New Orleans for his services. I think this is a pretty good move. Now, Marshon Lattimore, he has been an outstanding player for the New Orleans Saints, a cornerback one, no doubt. We look at his stats over the last 4 years. I mean, look at 2021, 19 pass breakups. I mean, obviously only played in 17 games the past 2 years, so injury concerns a little bit. Whenever I look at this Texans cornerback depth chart, adding him, I mean, it's definitely a plus. When you add a guy of Marshon Lattimore's caliber, it's never going to hurt your team adding a guy like that. But just keep in mind, with this trade, I think this is more unlikely than the first two, because I really do believe this Texans team, this Texans coaching staff is, sold on Kamari Lassiter and him being the cornerback 2 of this team and starting outside opposite Derek Stingley. I mean, in training camp, in minicamp, in OTAs, throughout rookie minicamp, he looked the part of a CB lockdown on the outside. He was locking up Stefon Diggs, locking up Dalton Schultz. He looked fantastic at every point of this offseason so far. So I think the Texans coaching staff, this Texans team, is really buying in that Kamari Lassiter is going to be the guy for them on the outside. Are you buying into the hype, though? Do you think Kamari Lassiter is as good as we've been hyping him up to be? I mean, I think he could be one of the best corners from this year's draft, and that's a lot being said with 5 or 6 guys being drafted before him, but I am buying into the hype. How about you? Let me know down in the comments section. Yes or no, are you buying in to this Kamari Lassiter hype? And coming up, I have one offensive player in this video, one guy that I think the Texans could possibly trade for on the offensive side of the football. I'll tell you who that is in just a moment. But if you haven't gotten your brand new Texans jerseys fresh, hot off the presses, what are you waiting for? Go get them today with our friends over at Fanatics. You can go to chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. You get all the different CJ Stroud colors. You can also get Will Anderson Jr., Jalen Petrie. They have all the jerseys available in the brand new Texans jerseys. Even get a new guy like Stefon Diggs. Go check them all out today. I'm going to put that link down in the comment section and description of today's video. Chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. All right. Last name on my list, Alvin Kamara, running back for the New Orleans Saints. And I know what you're thinking. The Texans already traded for Joe Mixon this offseason. But, Alvin Kamara could be also disposable at some point this year for the New Orleans Saints. I think if you look at a guy like Alvin Kamara, obviously getting paid a lot by the Saints, could be a cap casualty at some point this season for them. And over the past 4 years, he's looked fantastic. Alvin Kamara has been outstanding for the Saints. And I know we only have his rushing stats up there, but he is really what you want in a dual threat running back in today's day and age. He can catch the ball out of the backfield as well. A great threat to have on your offense. Now, with this being said, I think this would only happen if there was an injury to Joe Mixon, because I think he's going to be a really good running back for this Texans team this year. But if there's an injury to Joe Mixon and the Texans don't fully trust Dameon Pierce, this could be an opportunity where the Texans go out and trade for a guy like Alvin Kamara. Because if you go behind Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce, the Texans don't really have anybody. They have a special teams guy in Agumbo Wale who, could get some snaps here and there, but you definitely don't want him starting for you. You have Jawar Jordan, who the Texans drafted late in the 2024 NFL draft out of Louisville, but also maybe not a guy that you want starting this season. So in those instances, I could see the Texans going out and making a blockbuster trade for a guy in Alvin Kamara. That's all I have for you on today's video, folks. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, talk to me about more Texans news and rumors. Talk to me about this video and what you think about my trades. Let me know on Twitter. My DMs are always open at Jeremy Chuggs. And if you haven't hit that sub button to the channel already, what are you doing? We are the fastest growing Texans channel on YouTube. Go down and hit that sub button for free Texans content all year long. Hey, if you don't like it in a week, you can unsubscribe. But let me earn your subscription. Go down and hit that sub button and join Texans today.